Thank you. Okay, we're going to convene our special meeting for Tuesday, February 3rd of the Chariho Regional School District. I am going to, per the agenda, stand again for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a moment of silence. Thank you. So we have 2 items on the agenda, although I think there was really only supposed to be 1 item, but we can get to that when we get to that agenda item. So discussion and vote to review and amend the Chariho School Committee Rules of Conduct. This was an agenda item that was brought forward by member Diane Teft. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Diane. Diane,
Thank
please
you.
proceed. Yes, you're welcome.
Good evening, fellow committee members, superintendent.
Diane, hold on. Miss, can I help you?
Can I have a point of order?
Sign-up sheet this week, please?
There is no sign-up sheet yet, so what I will do is, once the committee has had a chance to speak, if somebody wants to offer public input, I will turn it over to the community. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have a point of order also.
Yes,
I'm just going to come
sure.
up here.
Your point of order?
My point of order is your code of conduct rules states that you shall have a public forum at every meeting. It doesn't specify the difference between special or regular meeting. So I'm curious as to why there is no public forum here. It states it right in your code of conduct.
Sure.
Number 1, section C, I believe.
Sure.
If you'd like to take a look at that.
Here's our attorney, and he just stepped in. So, Mr. Moffett, if you can repeat that question, please, because I just want to make sure that, hi, John, welcome.
I'm just going to read a statement and then you can just listen to it. It says, okay, so Title 16, I saw the agenda, document. So it says, require school committees to accept and encourage a variety of opinions from the community, promote communication and understanding with the public, and conduct meetings with planned and published agendas. The Chariho School Committee implemented these statutory obligations by adopting a rules of conduct governing its meetings. Section 1, subsection B, authorizes the calling of special meetings, but does not alter the meeting procedures or agenda requirements. Section 1C mandates that the agenda for the school committee meetings shall include a public forum, permitting only reordering of agenda items by majority vote, not elimination. Section 1, subsection D establishes the sole mechanism for deviating from these requirements by allowing suspension of the rules only upon a 2/3 vote of the committee. Title 16 does not authorize the unilateral deviation from the adopted procedures, and absent a formal suspension of the rules, the committee remains obligated to conduct all meetings, including special meetings, in accordance with Section 1, subsection C, including public.
Okay, thank you for your input. My recollection is we did have a special meeting in August to talk about the hiring of the vendors for the Stage 1 and Stage 2 application. I don't believe that agenda had public comment on it, but John, if you want to weigh in on this, because I believe you and I talked about this yesterday, about this very topic, and that there was some ambiguity about this.
Yes, we did speak yesterday. I anticipated that this question would be asked.
Sure.
And it's my belief that 1B applies to special meetings, 1C applies to regular meetings. That being said, there is nothing that precludes the chair from allowing people to speak during the meeting. So bottom line is we all get to the same place. We may get there through different routes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So once the school committee has had a chance to talk about the topic at hand, we can take public comment. So it's going to depend on how many people stand up for public comment. So we'll get there, and once we get there, we will I will allow the public to speak. Okay, Diane, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Chair. Good evening, fellow committee members, superintendent, staff, and members of the public. Tonight, we are considering updates to the Chariho School Committee's Rule of Conduct. These rules exist to help ensure that our meetings remain efficient, effective, and focused on the important work of serving our students, families, and communities across the Chariho Regional School District. Our current rules of conduct give us general guidelines for items such as meeting procedures, meeting times, the order of meeting agendas, Robert's Rules of Order being the guide used for our meetings, agenda development, communication, and request for information by members, ethics, and violations. However, the lack of decorum and outbursts by members at most of our school committee meetings over the last year have highlighted the need for revisions to our rules of conduct. These revisions will strengthen and clarify certain provisions to better address behaviors that disrupt decorum, hinder our ability to conduct business, and distract from the respectful environment we all strive to maintain. The proposed updates I suggest aim to reinforce core principles of courtesy, mutual respect, and professionalism among committee members. Principles that model the same standards we expect in our schools and that support constructive collaboration on behalf of our students. These changes are not about limiting legitimate debate or differing viewpoints among committee members. Robust discussion is essential to our democratic process. Rather, they are intended to provide clearer guidelines and decorum expectations among members so that decisions can be made thoughtful and without disruptions. And our meetings can serve as positive examples of civic engagement. I believe these refinements will help our body fulfill our responsibilities more effectively while upholding the integrity and collegiality that our community deserves. In reading the feedback online from members of the public, it came to my attention that I used the word participants in my suggested language for revisions, when it should have been more appropriately said school committee members. With that being said, I make a motion to adopt the updated rules of conduct as distributed to school committee members with references to participants replaced by school committee members, and removal of the first bullet point of 5C under enforcement language.
Okay,
Thank you.
so thank you for that statement. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Can I just ask, so just for clarification, so you want to remove the first bullet point under C,
Under 5C under enforcement language,
write
correct.
that out. And I would make a suggestion for another additional small change, the last bullet point, just above C. It says no person shall engage. I would change that to no school committee member, as well as participants, school committee member. So it's very clear, these are the rules of conduct for the school committee members. And that's it.
Exactly.
So Diane,
Okay.
did you want to include that as a potential change to your motion?
Yes, I
To
would.
change no person to no school committee member?
Exactly.
Okay,
No person to no school committee member.
okay.
Correct.
So we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Discussion. So just for clarification purposes, Diane, if I'm understanding you correctly, in your redlined version, under decorum, so 5A, under decorum, under general principles and overarching statements, I'm just making sure that I'm looking for all the words participants. So committee members, it says committee members and participants. So we are scratching and participants in that bullet.
Correct.
I'm looking to see if there's another area of, okay, so bullet number 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it says all participants shall conduct themselves with courtesy, respect, and professionalism. I'm not gonna read the whole thing. So that should say school committee members.
Exactly.
All right, I'm just looking to see if there's another area where it
Yes,
says
there is.
participants.
Specific behavioral expectations, bullet number 3.
Okay, so that would go from participants to school committee members.
Correct.
So in that motion, under B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it says no person, so we're gonna say there, school committee members shall engage in
Correct.
conduct. And then we are removing enforcement language, C, the first bullet.
Correct.
Did I get all that?
Yes, you
Okay.
did,
All right.
correctly.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion from the members? Jess?
So, to start, I generally feel that special meetings should be reserved for urgent district matters. This is our second one within a matter of months. Right in our rules of conduct, it says that special meetings may be called for grievances, student discipline hearings, personnel matters, litigation, and negotiations. But this doesn't fit any of those categories. I think it's important that we prioritize the most important topics that put our students first. I think that the suggested additions are way too subjective to feelings, bias, rather than procedure and orderly composure of meetings. You did address the fact that they blur the lines between school committee members and the public, but I also think they pose a threat to freedom of expression and who determines how we can express ourselves in these meetings. I think any revision to this policy should align with Robert's Rules of Order, which give us clear guidelines on how meetings should be organized and how we should be addressing each other. I think they should also be in compliance with the Open Meetings Act and constitutional free speech and expression protections. As mentioned in the policy, Robert's rules are an important framework. They help us maintain order and fair expression of diverse viewpoints, but they also include guidelines for taking actions if members are out of order in their conduct, which also we have at the end of the rules of conduct already. I also want to mention that Robert's rules does not give the chair authority in maintaining order. Does give the chair authority in maintaining order, but the chair can generally not remove a member from a public meeting without a vote of the school committee, which is in conflict with the suggested additions to this policy. There were points.
I think she removed that, right,
removed that.
Diane? She
Yes,
removed
I did.
that. Yeah,
Yes, I did.
so
It's hard to follow when you're making changes in a meeting. There were points that I agreed with, but I think as presented, as I said, they're too subjective. These edits are subject to personal feelings and interpretation. They include redundancies with the current policy and Robert's rules. So I would suggest a much shorter section, much more simple, that just is called Standards of Conduct for School Committee Members. I think we should talk about members refrain from materially disrupting proceedings or interferes with other people's ability to participate. I think members shall prepare for meetings in advance and refrain from the personal use of devices during meetings. That to me has been more distracting than anyone's behavior in meetings. I also think that members shall wear attire that's appropriate for a public government setting that does not display slogans, images, or messages. This is something I received several messages about from constituents that has bothered them, come up in meetings before. And I also would like to say that the chair may issue warnings, taking caution to ensure that rules are applied equally and not based on a speaker's viewpoint. I think that these standards are observable objectives, not based on feelings, and it makes them more realistic to enforce fairly and evenly to all members. I also was surprised that you didn't have any edits to the rest of the policy. When I want to make changes to a policy, I look at the whole policy. So there were other things within here that I thought could be added in. As far as 1D, it talks about each member having the ability to hold the floor twice, but there's a 10-minute window. So you can hold the floor twice. Robert's rules specifies 10 minutes at a time. That might be good to add here. Also 1E, it says that the school committee may give responses. I wonder if we could broaden that to include the superintendent and administrative staff. That's a common practice that we already observe. I also wonder if we could shorten this section and just refer to the public forum policy. This is a separate policy we already have. And then I'd also like to include that school committee members can vote to extend public forum past 30 minutes if there is a motion to do so and there's a 2/3 majority vote. That's according to Robert's rules. In 1G, it says that talks about sealed executive session minutes. I think that should be expanded to discussion, proceedings, and minutes, because it's not you're not just supposed to keep the minutes to yourselves, but also what we talk about and what happens in those meetings.
All right, so I think we have a motion and a second on the language that Diane suggested, so.
And I'm
I think
talking
it's
about
great
the
that-
overall policy. I'd like to finish
But-
speaking. I'd like to
just-
finish speaking. I'm almost done.
But I understand that, Jess, so.
Do you have a point of order?
What I would like to finish my thought though, if you. give
I'm
me-
finishing my thoughts.
She was in the middle of
Oh my
talking.
gosh.
She was literally speaking and you cut her off.
First of all, you have not been recognized in the audience. This is a school committee discussion. I have not called on any member of the public. So when I open it up to the public, you can feel free to say what you need to say. But I will not tolerate tonight discussion and outbursts by the public. This is a school committee discussion right now. I'm sure you have a lot to say, and we will open it up when it's the time to open it up. So we're gonna ask that you be respectful, and do you just let us finish our discussion, please? Thank you.
So what I'm saying is germane to the topic at hand, and I'd like to finish my suggested changes to the policy that's on the table at the moment. 2B, I'd also suggest that we extend the time period for agenda requests from 8 days to 14 days. 3A, it starts with outside of the meeting setting. It discusses how school committee members should speak only for themselves. I think that should be during meetings as well. Sorry, let me just. Yeah, I think that we should just strike where it says outside of the meeting setting, so it just says school committee members should speak only for themselves. They should avoid giving the impression that they speak for the school committee, and I'd like to add, and the Chariho Regional School District. This is not really in this policy, but I also would like to ask the superintendent, she's not at the table, but I'd like to discuss the possibility of requiring school committee members to undergo an annual background check, just as volunteers do for the school district. So that's what I have prepared for notes. Thank you. Thank you for letting me finish.
Sure. Okay, so you had a number of things there, so we have a motion on the table regarding Diane's specific language. So is there, I guess before we get to your suggestions, because if you have other suggested changes to the rules of conduct, I think it would be fine to consider any of those additional changes. But the motion right now is on the floor, Diane's suggested language that had been redlined. And so we had a motion and a second on that. So is there any other feedback on that? Craig.
Chair, I'm just confused by something. Why now? We're starting to come together. And this is a very divisive issue. Why would we want to do this now? We've got not much more time left as a committee. And you really want to hit the hornet's nest. So that's all I got to say.
I appreciate your feedback. I think that there have been members around the table, and I'm not going to speak for any other member but myself, but what I will say is that there have been, inappropriate outbursts that have been unbecoming. And it's I think impeded our ability to work together as a group. So I think that there needs to be some more specific guidelines just about behavior. And, Diane brought the agenda item forward. I know that there have been other members around the table that have had, a lot of, just had a lot of negative feelings about our ability or sometimes our inability to have productive discussions around the table. So I just, I don't think it's great that, we're here at this point, but I think we should come together and we should make a renewed commitment to come together for this next, year of the time that we have left. So thank you for that feedback. Linda?
Well, I'd like to just comment on that renewed commitment. You're sort of, I'm feeling a little pressured because you're not allowing, say, for Jessica's ideas to be put into. I know you made a motion and you made a second to accept as proposed, but we've never really done that before. We've always included other people's suggestions. I feel that maybe this is a policy that, like these suggestions that Jessica had suggested should be included also, because I agree with them.
Absolutely. We had a motion on the table. So I think that if we have a motion on the table, we have to talk about the motion on the table first.
Okay.
And then if there are any other updates or any other revisions that other members have,
But
of
if
course,
the
we
motion
need
on the table passes, then there's no other revision. There's no
well,
other,
but there could be another motion to make updates to the rules of conduct.
why would we want to do that?
Yeah.
I still feel, I have problems with some of the language. I feel it's ambiguous. I feel it gives a chair, like it gets to the point where I'm going to feel that, I have to be careful what I say and how I say things. Even if I do get angry at some point in time, that's okay. You've become angry at meetings. We all have. And I agree with Craig. I think that we were on a path of actually working towards together as a group, and now we're sort of back to it is derisive. I don't understand why we need to do this. And I agree with Jessica that I would rather spend my time working on things that are important to teachers and kids and learning and keeping the schools open. I don't think we need this, to be quite honest with you.
Okay.
At this point, I think if we follow Robert's rules and use as chair follows the Robert's rules, I think we could have very productive meetings. That's how I feel.
So would you categorize the outbursts in the past as productive and as, conducive to collegiality? Because I haven't felt that way.
How many outbursts? I mean, I would say I had one outburst. I mean, so Karen had one outburst. I don't know. There's not been like lots of them. I think you're more uncomfortable with the public forum. I really do.
But I am what? I'm
You're
sorry?
more. I think that the most uncomfortable is some of the things that have been said, say during public forum.
I've listened to every.
I know you have, and I'm not saying you
it.
haven't. I know you, and as chair, I had my cross to bear. And I know other chairs have too. And you just have to, listen.
Yeah.
And I just feel that this is just not helpful at this point in time.
Okay. Laura, and let's see, so we had Laura,
Karen.
Karen, and I think Jess had her hand raised again.
So I think that maybe that because there is a difference of opinion sometimes, and we only have one meeting a month, that it may seem like there's only been, you or Karen, like you had said previously, but there have been multiple outbursts over the course of the last year, and I can just say from a personal perspective that to be on the receiving end of something like that from other committee members, it's not helpful. It doesn't feel very good. It's very, everybody has a different lived experience, in my opinion. So I think that, just kind of laying some ground rules like this is, I don't see anything wrong with it. It's really not directed at the public. So I think it's mainly just, the decorum with, to continue on the right path. I don't think that there's anything, outrageous in any of this stuff, to be totally honest. I think we all recognize these things, but again, we're all different people and we all interpret and take things differently. And I think that if you go back and look at multiple meetings, you can see that there are certain things that do tend to happen that make it very uncomfortable for some people. So, and I just would like to avoid that, so.
Thanks, Laura. Karen?
I'm gonna say avoiding discomfort is not always possible. The words used in the policy in regards to decorum are about limiting free speech, giving the chair the power to silence speakers that she may disagree with. I will own the outburst that I had, but words like respectful, productive, courtesy, respectful, ridicule, anger, rudeness, impatient are subjective terms and can easily lead to unequal application. Question for the chair. Were you being respectful and courteous on June 17th, 2025, when you turned to the audience and stated, quote, "I'm not finished. I gave everybody the opportunity to express their views this month and last month. I'm going to finish my statement as Donna finished her statement last month. Don't be disrespectful." Close quote. Chair, were you angry, impatient, rude, or were you agreeable, tolerant, and impassioned? Again, these are subjective terms that can be interpreted differently person to person. During the same 6-minute speech, you stated, quote, "I am the chair of this committee, an equal member of this committee. The sooner you and the Chariho community accept that, the sooner we can all move forward to act in the best interest of the students of this district." Again, was that professional, respectful, and courteous? Or was it demonstrative, disrespectful, discourteous? I think it is safe to say we all have our moments. But now, you want to have control over what is acceptable and unacceptable. We don't need this policy. Can we all do better? Absolutely. But this looks like, feels like, and sounds like a limitation to people's free speech, even at this table.
Okay. Jess? Polly, did you have your hand raised also?
I did.
Okay, so I'll go to Polly and then we'll go back to Jess.
Jessica suggested quite a few changes, but I was wondering if anybody had emailed in any suggestions after the agenda was submitted on Friday and sent out to the school committee members.
Members? If members had any suggestions?
Yeah, did any
Not
send
that I-
any
not that I-
into the chair?
No, not
Okay.
any members.
I was just wondering. I had one word. And it went off of the word that she suggested we change, so I was being consistent.
So you're gonna let her finish her statement though, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Thanks.
I was clarifying what she said. That's a point of order, comment.
So there was that question, and I also wanted to make a point that none of these are any good unless they're enforced. I've seen so many of these over the past 3.5 years. In my opinion, I will say, I've seen several of these rules of conduct broken, stomped upon, and misused, especially, and I suggest you all read the last paragraph of when I was censured, and the procedure that went into the censuring was not followed. So I was not given a certified any kind of letter or information that I was going to be censured. I was not provided the proof of what I was being censured about. So these papers are only as good, like Gina said, as the paper they're on unless they're enforced and they're upheld by every single one of us with respect to the next one. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thanks Polly. So Jess and then Craig.
I just wanted to follow up with, folks that have expressed discomfort at things that have been said and heard in meetings. I do think there's a recourse for that in the meeting. I think that if something happens in a meeting that you're not happy with, that we could call a point of order and call it to the attention that someone's behavior is inappropriate. And they're basing their statements on personalities rather than the issue at hand.
But isn't that subjective? So if I say somebody's behavior is inappropriate, isn't that subjective?
Not if you call a point of order that they're off topic, that they're debating personalities and not issues. I think that if you think someone's out of order enough to change a policy, then you can call a point of order within a meeting. I think that's appropriate based on Robert's Rules of Order and our current code of conduct.
Okay. Craig.
John, this says rules of conduct. It's also a policy, correct?
Correct.
We have a policy subcommittee. We don't use it. Why wasn't this brought to them first?
So Diane's brought forward at one of our last school committee meetings that she wanted to have a special meeting about this topic. So actually, the superintendent and I, when we were reviewing agenda items, because our meetings have gone quite long, often, sometimes beyond 10 o'clock, Gina and I thought that if we put this item on a regular meeting, that it would again go quite long, most likely beyond 10 o'clock. And so Gina and I talked about having this as a special meeting. So that was she and I discussed it as a team, as we review all the agenda items. So, that's
So
how this came to
that
be.
can answer my question, why didn't it go to the subcommittee first?
Because a member, Diane Taft, asked it to be considered as a special meeting. So, here we are.
Can I just
Sure.
read the formation of policies policy? And that's something actually I asked John to look at, because there's no mention in there of a subcommittee for the policy. So there's kind of a sketchy area. It doesn't have to go to the subcommittee, because in the formation of policies, I don't know if I'm explaining it right, and I don't want to step all over John's toes, but I personally think it should mention something in there, the formation of policies, that anything we agreed to change in policies should go to the subcommittee. But that's a different topic, and I don't want to get off of this one.
Okay.
I just wanted to be helpful.
So is there any other input from the members before we go to the public? All right, so I just have. Oh, sorry, Karen.
I'm going to suggest this go to the policy subcommittee. I know we've made an amendment. I mean, we've made a motion and a second, but there were a lot of verbal changes to this, and I think it should be vetted out.
Okay. Yes, of course.
Diane, just to clarify, this is you're adding to the existing, correct?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Okay. So I had a few thoughts that I wrote down on paper. So before I open it up to the public, I would just like to give some comments on this. So our school committee meetings should model the respectful civil dialogue we expect in our classrooms and our district. Members exhibiting raised voices, engaging in personal attacks, interruptions, other disruptive behaviors detract from our shared purpose of acting in the best interest to move our district forward in the spirit of excellence. In our exchanges as school committee members, we should strive to embody patience, kindness, self-control in both our words and tone, myself included. There have been occasions when voices have been raised in frustration toward one another. We should remember and be mindful that we serve the public best by choosing restraint, seeking understanding, and maintaining composure, even in disagreement. Moving forward, let us as school committee members commit to the highest standards of decorum, listening attentively without interrupting, maintaining respectful body language and tone, refraining from side conversations, and treating each other's views with respect. If members wish to share opinions about fellow members or broader matters outside of the meeting context, you're free to exercise your free speech rights through letters to the editor, social media, on your own time. However, when we convene as a public body to conduct the district's business, we must hold ourselves to the highest standards of professionalism, ensuring an environment where mutual respect and decorum guide every interaction. We face several consequential decisions ahead. As we talked about earlier in our earlier meeting, we have a fiscal year 27 budget. We have an elementary school capital improvement plan that will define our school facilities for generations. In order to deliberate these important matters and all district matters and business effectively, I feel that we must ground our discussions in mutual respect and make a renewed commitment to that. In my view, maintaining the highest standards of civility is every bit as essential and timely as the substance of the issues we are addressing. I want to thank Diane for bringing this in what I feel is an important topic forward for the special meeting. I think it's something that we've needed to discuss and address as a body of 12. I know tonight we're only a body of 9, but I think it's something that we've needed to discuss and address for some time, and to be candid with each other and to listen to each other. Over the last year, honestly, there have been instances where remarks aimed at myself personally have felt deeply, frankly, hateful and vile, inappropriate at times, and out of bounds. Worse, there have been times when the intensity of our discussions and votes left me personally feeling unsafe as I left our meetings. That's not how any of us should feel while serving our community as public servants. In today's climate, where political tensions too often spill into intimidations or even violence against public officials nationwide, it's more important than ever that we set a different standard here. We can and must prioritize mutual respect and safety for everyone at this table. Our district prioritizes kindness at every level. When I went to the budget meeting yesterday in the administration building, there are, I think on Greg Zenion's door, there's something about kindness. We have kindfidence clubs. Kindness, reflects in the Vision 2026 strategic plan at all levels. In turn, the school committee should be that model for kindness, should be that model for dignity and respect. Whenever we fall short of embodying those values, we fail in our common humanity. Diane, I think your recommendations for revising our rules of conduct are well considered and timely. I wholeheartedly endorse them with the revisions that you made, and you made revisions that the public, I think, emailed a number of us today, and I think that I appreciate your revisions that you made, and you respected the input of the public, and I appreciate that. And you made, I think we with your revisions, you make an emphasis in placing and upholding civility and decorum among the school committee members, because these are school committee rules of conduct. And I hope that this can help us in our work together moving forward. So those are my comments. So I will open it up now to the community, if the community would like to speak. So what I would like to do is, if you would like to speak, I'm gonna ask you to line up behind the podium, and I will give would anyone like to speak on this topic? Raise your hand, please. Okay, we have one person, 2 people, 3 people, 4, so 4, maybe 5. So I'll give each community member 3 minutes to speak. And I'm just gonna ask each of you that raised your hands to please line up behind the other, because I would like to be mindful and respectful of time tonight. I'm trying to make sure that we don't go beyond 10 o'clock. So who else raised their hand? So if you can line up behind Mr. Stoner, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Ready?
Not yet. Just want to set the timer. Okay, so Laura is going to keep a timer for 3 minutes, and when the timer goes off, I'm just going to ask you to wrap it up, okay?
I won't be here in 3 minutes.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Stoner.
Yeah.
Please say your name and what town you're from.
So my name's Gary Stoner. I'm from the town of Richmond. I sent you an email earlier today, not early enough for the agenda. I believe the policy submitted, or that Ms. Teft submitted, was done in good faith, but I do believe it's completely redundant with already exists in terms of a school committee code of conduct, Robert's Rules of Order, and the principles for conducting oneself as part of as a school committee member. If you keep in mind the first point of the school committee responsibilities, or members' responsibilities, it is to serve children first, to put the schools and the children first, and if you do that all the time, you won't need you won't need guidelines for code of conduct and so on. In any case, this proposal is completely redundant, I believe, with what already exists, but what already exists needs to be paid attention to. And secondly, I completely object to putting in the hands of this chair or any other chair the responsibility to infer what is right and what's wrong, and to determine when that person, or a person, if they've been determined to be wrong in what they're doing, how they should be cut off, or what should happen. So I believe, as Karen said, that those infringe upon issues of free speech. So that's what I have to say. I think you're essentially wasting your time, and you should be home with your families. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stoner, can I clarify something with you?
You sure
please?
can.
Can I ask, did you think, these are for all the members of the school committee. Did you think they were just for the chair? Because any member can pull up any of these and, point of order, decorum, point of order.
Ms. Teff's
So I was just
written
curious.
policy, I believe, was about all members of the school committee.
Yeah,
And I believe I read in there that the chair, or from what I could tell, the person who would be the judge would be the chair of the school committee.
For any
Who
public
is-
body, the chair is,
The chair runs the
keeps
meeting.
decorum. Yep.
So I infer that that's what's in there.
Okay, thank you, I just needed
Yeah,
clarification,
you're welcome.
how you were
Thank
thinking
you.
about it.
And your name and what town you're from, please.
My name's Debbie Miller and I'm from Cranston, Rhode Island. Just have a few remarks. I think one of the things you should consider moving forward is to make your school committee nonpartisan. I think that would make things a lot easier on everybody. I also wanted to know what the,
Sorry, that was from the last time. Sorry, just give us a moment to reset the clock. Sorry. Good? Okay.
I just wanted to know what the process is for reporting a school committee member that's perhaps out of hand. I mean, I saw that there was something for like repeated offenses, but I don't see like for the day-to-day. So like, would it be appropriate for me today to put in a formal complaint against Polly Hopkins? Because when I approached her earlier and I asked her if she could ask you where to sign up, she totally dismissed me, and I felt very, very offended when she did that. I didn't think that was professional at all. I don't think it would live up to your standards that you have here. I think that if school committee members can't act professional, then you shouldn't be sitting on the school committee. Okay? It's the same thing when you go to work. If my subordinate was unprofessional, you know what? They'd be done. Okay, if they were rude to clients that we support where I work, they'd be done, you know? And same thing for the school committee. If you don't know how to behave appropriately, then leave. I think that this whole policy that you're trying to put forth should be tabled until you could figure it out. I think that the policy subcommittee should be formatted a little bit more specifically, so you know like what goes first, what goes second. It sounds like you're very confused here. And I just want to say that the rules of conduct, I think should be your normal everyday way of life. So if you can't perform professionally in here and you can't perform professionally in your private life, then you shouldn't sit on the school committee. So like if, just for instance, let's just say you're on social media and you post something on your personal, okay, granted it's your personal social media, but you post something that's like a little bit unprofessional, like would you hang it on the wall behind you, like, you know, photo of Nazis and, you know, members of the LGBTQ community, would you post that? I wouldn't allow people to post that where I work. Okay. So I would suggest that the vote be taken and that you table it until you could figure it out.
Thank you. Restart.
Excuse me, Miss Debbie Miller of Cranston, could I ask you to clarify something for me? Or let me just give you some info. Well, she asked who would I contact, and you can contact the Rhode Island Ethics Commission. If you believe when you came up behind me 2 inches from my face and asked that I didn't react and you felt offended, please contact them, okay?
Thank you.
401-222-3790.
She knows it's their standard procedure for.
So I'm gonna just ask school committee members, to refrain from speaking to the public, because all of that, we really shouldn't be engaging in a back and forth during this time of public comment.
Right.
So, thank you, Ms. Miller, I appreciate
You know,
it.
it's like we can't speak from the sidelines. The school committee members shouldn't speak from the sidelines either. Thank you.
Typically not during public comment.
Check.
Polly.
Sorry.
Okay.
I will clarify, only because I've been down this road. Public forum before the meeting prohibits the school committee members from interacting with the public on a large scale. You can clarify questions, you can ask things, but this is an agenda that's opened up and the public is commenting. we're allowed to have a back and forth and discussion.
Okay. Craig?
As far as I know.
For future reference, your two outbursts were wrong, and this is why you're wrong by Robert's rules.
Okay,
You,
please tell me.
you ask the chair the question, the chair will ask the person standing at the podium.
Madam Chairman, the word "you" cannot be used to another member. All remarks are addressed to
the
you,
chair.
Madam
Okay,
Chair.
thank you, Mr.
The
Olean.
word "you" is out of
Okay.
order. That's why.
Okay, I
we're
haven't
discussing.
recognized you, Mr. Olean, but thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you for correcting me, sir.
Are you ready for your turn?
I stand corrected very often, sir.
Justin, your name and your time.
Justin Bentley, Ashaway.
Thank you.
So I'll be very quick. Thank you, Madam Chair, for we had engaged in dialogue back and forth, and
Yes,
thank you
sir.
for allowing public forum. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I was afraid that wouldn't happen, and thank you, Ms. Teft, for striking the language. The word participants was, I think, why many people are here now in the room. We're
Okay.
a little leery. So just for clarification, all of the items we were discussing apply solely to the school committee, not to the public.
Correct. At least that's what her revisions reflect.
Okay, so I just, at times, I would, if it was mentioned earlier, the fear of limiting freedom of speech, being able to express oneself, I would really appreciate if we would be allowed to, as long as it's not disruptive of the meeting during public forum, to express our approval without being boisterous. You know, if something's said that we feel passionately about that it's great for Chariho schools, I would like to be able to, from the audience, express my approval. So,
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that, Justin.
Catherine Giusti from Hopkinton. With all the changes that you've made tonight, I think it's very unwise to vote on this policy tonight. I think that you have fundamentally changed what your initial thoughts were. I think that taking the enforcement language out of it, while I appreciate that, I don't understand why any of the rest of them are necessary. I also appreciate that it's not applied to participants because that is against everybody's freedom of speech. I understand that these meetings are uncomfortable. You know, I was the chair during meetings. Linda was a chair. Craig was a chair when they were very uncomfortable. We had people with signs and a picket line out front. We had people yelling at us from the audience. You're always going to have some level of discomfort. You should not feel personally unsafe. And if you feel personally unsafe, that's a problem. And that's something you need to address with someone who's making you feel that way. But I think you're taking this too far. You have a difficult job, Chair, already. And to now add onto your plate that you need to, on the fly, make a subjective decision as to whether you think someone else is going to be aggrieved by the tone that someone else is using, makes that job impossible. Not only for you, but these are rules that you're making for any other chairperson who comes after you. So I think these are unwise. I understand and do appreciate the conversation. But I think if you're really serious about making these revisions, it should go back to the policy subcommittee so that you can maybe lower the temperature a little bit, have some more time. Jess had many suggestions. I don't think you're prepared to make the decision tonight. You shouldn't be prepared with all of the new information that's been brought forward to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Jess?
Just to add on to what Catherine just said about revising, I think if we really truly are in the spirit of collaboration and working together, I think that the edits I suggested are valid. I think that they deserve to be considered. I don't think we should rush ahead to put in changes that have already been changed from the initial one that we all just heard right here. I think if we do want to work together on this, there's a better way to do it than to just push forward with these changes, if we truly do mean what the folks are saying.
Greg?
Greg Abadishan from the town of Hopkinton. I guess first off, I'd like to just recognize item 11 out of Title 16 in the education. I believe this was in your packets. Recognize that the first and greatest concern must be the educational welfare of the students attending the public schools. I don't think that I agree with Member Luzon that I don't think that these changes are going to make you a more effective group in implementing your charge as school committee members. I get it, it's difficult. I've been there where you are, and I understand, Louise, that I've been someone who's had a couple of outbursts. It's been a while. I've tried to maintain control, and I know that I have directed some of my comments towards you. And in my opinion, I think I had some valid points, but I don't want to go there. My feeling is this. I think it's a tough job, and I've been there. I have been at the end of where you are now. And yeah, you just have to bear with it. And I respect the job that you guys are doing. I believe it or not, I will thank you all for your service. But I think moving on this is premature. I think Member Purcell has some very good points. There's nothing to stop you from either tabling it or amending it based on some of the other suggestions from the members. But I think you're rushing into something, and I think in the end, if you do this, it's just going to make the divide between the members even wider.
Thank you. Your name and the town where you're from, please.
Simon Manlove, Hopkinton.
Hi.
The stated aim of these changes to the policy was to enable productive discussion between the members of the school committee and to make sure that that discussion is respectful in nature. However, given the language of the current proposal, I do not believe that it adequately actually addresses that concern, and that the language used is vague in a manner that makes it unhelpful for that purpose and possibly dangerous to include for its use in other purposes. Specifically, the changes that were made at Madam Test's proposals earlier this meeting in order to change the language from referring to participants and members to only referring to members, I believe are very important and a good change. However, that does not address the fact that several of the clauses and points in the language currently on the floor do not have a subject. There is no subject mentioned in the line. It does not say members. It does not say participants. It does not say anybody. And therefore it is open to interpretation whom that language may be construed towards or against.
Okay.
In addition to that, the language of this proposal as a whole is linguistically inconsistent with the rest of the document. It does not use a formalized language stating whom it applies to, whom it will be enforced by, how it applies, and under what circumstances it applies, that are included in the rest of the clauses of the school committee's code of conduct. For this reason, it is also very broadly applicable in situations that do not apply to its stated purpose. In addition to this, many of its provisions of when it shall apply use words that do not have a definitive meaning under its own definitions. The Code of Conduct does not specifically and rigorously define the terms that are used in this particular edition, nor are they specifically defined anywhere in other legal documents that are referred to in this Code of Conduct. Which means that all of its provisions are extremely open to interpretation. In light of that, I would consider it not even for reasons of any of this policy, but simply for reasons of the vagueness of the entirety of the procedure and its openness to possible legal challenge, frankly.
Well, may I just interject if you don't mind? So our attorney did review Diane's suggested revisions. So I don't believe that Mr. Anderson had any issues with the language that was brought forward, that were brought forward.
Very well.
All right,
May I
thank you.
continue
I'm
my
gonna have to
statement?
hold you there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we vote?
We
To
have-
allow him to continue? Can we vote to overrule your ruling?
So we need a 2/3 majority to vote to have him to continue? Okay,
I'm not sure. Can we ask John, Mr. Anderson?
we need a
If it's
2/3
simple-
vote to
a
extend,
simple-
yeah.
There's some that need a simple majority and there's some that need a 2/3. I'm not sure
This
which
is a 2/3.
I believe it's 2/3.
It's a 2/3.
Okay,
So-
I make a motion to allow the speaker to continue.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, go ahead, continue. So you have another minute.
Very well. Thank you,
Welcome.
Madam Chair. For these reasons, I would consider it not a problem of the policy contained in these revisions, but simply unwise at the current time and state of this revision to attempt to put this language and these particular ideas into effect as a official policy. This needs additional polish. This needs clarification as to exact standards, and this needs to be definitive and objective in a way that his language is currently not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goldie Williams, Richmond. I want to say that there was a time when Laura and Louise got attacked and they needed a police escort out of this meeting. And I didn't think that was right. And as for being for all kids all the time, not by me, especially my oldest son. Thank you.
Bruce?
I'm going to keep this well under 3 minutes. Bruce Olean, Richmond. I want to start with a small apology to Madam Chair. Generally speaking, some member of the public has a right to raise a point of order or a point of privilege, which I did incorrectly. You raise it to the chair lady, person who must say what is your point of order. I skipped that step, so I apologize for that.
No problem.
Secondly, in a positive spirit, this is pretty good stuff overall. I commend Diane Teft for trying to write the policy. I think it's well meant. I have a couple of things that are wrong with it. Being a Christian and starting with our Jewish roots, the 10 Commandments are all thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. That's why a lot of people say, what should I do? Well, that's why we have Matthew 5 that says the peacemakers, the humble and whatnot. You get my point. The point is it comes across, I don't want to address Diane, that's incorrect. Madam Chairman, although it's well written, and I'm an English teacher, grammatically correct and all of what, I loved it. It's very negative. I would suggest it go to a committee. I've been on many committees in my education days. When we had a policy, we usually had one person write it and then sit down and tear it apart and say, ooh, I don't like that word. Ooh, let's change that word to that one. You gotta have at least 3 or 4 linguistically aware people, and no disrespect to the author. I think she was very well intentioned. Again, it comes across as a tad negative. 10 years from today, if somebody reads this policy, they're going to say, what the heck was going on at Chariho then? Did they sell tickets? and it's the week before the Super Bowl. Being a little facetious, but I want it to be more positive. Because you people are about to be more positive. It's almost like it's contradictory to some extent to where you're going. So, and to wrap it up, I would like it to go to a small group, people who carry it forward with the intention, strike out or minimize some of the negative words, thou shalt not, and let's put in the do things. Robert's Rules of Order can be summarized in one sentence. Civil behavior for a deliberative body to move forward. Civil is the key word. Ooh, this thing's jumping around. So anyway, you got my point. I would suggest that you table it for the time being. Good idea, good opportunity. Get that thing, tear it apart, put it back together again, try to have a positive tone. So 10 years from today, people will read it and say, they did a good job. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. So I think that the bullets that Diane put forward, for the most part, are in a positive context. Committee members are encouraged to model the respectful behavior we expect of students and staff in our schools. All communications, whether spoken or written, should reflect the highest standards of professional decorum and avoid any appearance of bias, discrimination, or disrespect. So I think I would push back on you a little bit, Bruce, about the thou shalt not. And I appreciate your feedback on that. You know, I appreciate, and I think all of us appreciate your feedback. So with that being said, we do have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Are we ready to vote on this?
So if there's an amendment made, so Jess had referenced a lot of things, and it was a lot for me to process in one setting. So I'm just wondering if it can be, you know, I like Diane's piece of this. I think that it's good and that it should go on, you know, as the, you know, bullet that she has, what is this?
Rules of conduct.
Under the decorum, how she has that listed. I think it is a good idea to, you know, to add that in there, but I also think that with the amount of additional things that Jess suggested, that perhaps that piece, since there were so many, could go to the policy subcommittee, which we've already been told by Gina that that's policy subcommittee will not be meeting until after budget season is over, just because of the time of year, so.
Okay. All right, so members, we do have a motion on the floor and we have a second. Are we ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor of moving forward with the decorum section of the rules of conduct, as Diane noted, with her revisions, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
So I make a motion to send it to the subcommittee as well?
So you're making a motion for your revisions to the rules of conduct to go to the policy subcommittee?
Well, for the whole policy to go for review. And yeah, so I could make my revisions as well.
So,
Not for a specific reason.
For what's gonna go to the policy subcommittee, I mean, if the school committee voted on including this language as part of decorum, so it has been adopted as
Right.
now as part of the rules of conduct.
And the chair gets to vote why?
So I have not recognized you. This is the second time that you've disrupted. So, okay, so I'm gonna ask you to just refrain from disrupting.
It's the first time.
No, it was the second, but
No,
that's
it was the
okay.
first.
Linda?
Well, I want Jessica to finish and then I'll.
Multiple folks expressed interest at incorporating my amendments, and I understand why they didn't want to be made right now, but also Ms. Tepp had changes that were rolled into this document. I still think there's a lot of discussion that could be had, and I would like it to go to the policy subcommittee.
Sure, so if you want to put that forward at our next school committee meeting about if you have revisions to the rules of conduct for some other items, either it's meeting procedures or agenda
Can I
development,
make a motion now?
if you'd like to.
That's what I was doing.
Okay,
I make a motion to send this policy to the policy subcommittee for
Second.
further revision.
Second. Okay, so
so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So just to clarify, this would be regarding not what we had all just discussed at length. This would just be in reference to the ones that you had spoke about previously, correct?
Other people can make other changes as well. I don't think it can be specific.
So I'd just like to weigh in on that. I mean, we just had a discussion on this and we voted. So now to go back and make suggested revisions to whatever
You
Diane,
completely ignored my suggestions.
then just make a motion to.
I did.
But we can only consider one motion at a time. And the motion was for Diane's language.
You could have amended the motions.
So again, please stop interrupting. Please stop
How many
interrupting.
times do I get?
You are not recognized by the chair. But, okay, but this is exactly why we need rules of decorum
Right.
among school committee
So-
members. And
so-
also, when the policy subcommittee meets, I hope that the policy subcommittee would consider rules of decorum and suggestions for decorum, because we can't have people from the audience, disrupting a public meeting. It's just not appropriate, and I think everybody
I don't
around
like
this
you
table
telling
can
me.
agree on that.
I'm offended by your
So
tone.
I would like to, so we have a motion on the table, we have a second. Do you want to restate the motion, Madam Clerk?
What I have is that the motion is for the whole policy to go before the policy subcommittee with.
So we have a second, but what's ambiguous, I think, what's ambiguous for Laura is if whatever we just passed is now going to be reconsidered, because
Then what was the point?
then what was the point of the? Yes. Mr. Moffett, can you just hold on one second? Thanks.
I think the policy, even what we just approved, or you just approved, can go to the policy subcommittee and be discussed, and then it's gonna come back to be voted on here, correct? So, I think even though we voted on some of the word choice, I think some of the word choice could be looked at, even in the decorum section. Jess's suggestions could be vetted out. The whole policy could be rewritten. There were a lot of changes, even to Ms. Teft's piece, that may look differently once it's all typed up.
So, I think that we just had a discussion about this. We had a majority vote. It was a 5-4 vote. Now to go back and suggest changes when we had a discussion about it, and now we're gonna have another discussion about it in the subcommittee, to me seems redundant and unnecessary and not respectful of what the majority just voted. That's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. So hold on.
I would like to add to this, that once you open up the discussion to vote and review and amend the Chariho School Rules of Conduct, you open it up to the whole Rules of Conduct. This isn't just for Diane Teft's amendment. Once you open up discussion for this and then vote on it, you open up the whole Code of Conduct. So Jess has standing in her comments. This meeting has not been adjourned, okay? You can ask your attorney if that, I served on the town council. I know when you open something up, that's how it happens.
Sure.
Okay, so if you would like to possibly ask Mr. Anderson that question, I would appreciate that, and I think everyone here would appreciate that.
Okay. So I'll go to Craig first, and then I'll ask John to weigh in on this.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just look at how many times this has already been revised, this policy. Okay, it's been revised 10 times posted. So, that this,
Okay, thank you. John?
It's my opinion that the motion is within the scope of the agenda item, and any member of the school committee can make a motion with regard to the agenda item. If there's a second, then the motion needs to be considered.
Of course. Okay. So again, we do have a motion and a second. So my feedback on this, and we're on the discussion part of the motion, right? My feedback on this is similar to Laura's, that we had discussion on this. There was language added to the rules of conduct. I don't know why the decorum section would be revised or revisited again at the policy subcommittee level. That's just my opinion. So, Karen?
Nobody's saying that it is or isn't. But the policy should go back to the policy subcommittee so that Jess's suggestions can be discussed and possibly incorporated.
Sure, I don't think there's any disagreement on that. If you have other adjustments that you wanna look at for the rules of conduct, and there were a number of them, and I'm sure, most of them are really good suggestions. If you wanna make, if you wanna discuss those at length at the policy subcommittee level, and then bring those prospective revisions back with a red line, just like Diane brought this forward tonight, I don't think that there's any disagreement on that among the table. Well, I just gave you my opinion. I don't think that the decorum section should be looked at because we already discussed it and we voted on it, so. All right, so we have a motion and a second for this to go to the policy subcommittee. So all those in favor? Okay, unanimous. Great. Okay, so there was another agenda item on our agenda tonight, and I think there was a little bit of ambiguity and maybe a miscommunication on this. The item was discussion and vote to review and amend the Code of Management Principles and Ethical Standards for School Committee Members. And I think Angela thought that I brought that agenda item forward. I didn't. So I don't have anything to add or suggest to this unless it is on the agenda. So if anybody has anything that they want to discuss or add to that, speak now or
Move to table this agenda item. To file. Well, I was just covering my thoughts because it's on the thing. Table it to indefinitely.
All right, so we have a motion to table indefinitely. Do we have a second? We have a second. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, did you get that, Madam Clerk?
I only have 2 other side opposed. Thank you.
So, motion carries. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Okay, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay?
You're gonna stay here tonight.
Have a good night.
Dallas?